Welcome to part 12 of this series, the Roman Empire and the Holy Land. We're going to start this video speaking about Lud, and why do we have this question mark? Now we have Lud here in North Africa, and that was based on the interpretations from the Book of Jubilees, how the land was divided amongst the three sons of Noah and their grandchildren, and we had some information also supporting this idea for Lud being in North Africa. But I've got this question mark because we also came across this information, this word Sepharad, and it says that Sepharad is the Hebrew name for the Iberian Peninsula, and we also have a connection with Sardis in Lydia. You see how it says Sfard, and if we go to the page on the satrapy Lydia, it says the satrapy of Lydia, known as Sparta in Old Persian. So the satrapy of Lydia to the Persians was called Sparta, and this word could be the same as Sepharad. So this could be potentially important for our study, because we've got this connection with Lud in North Africa. And remember how we had this Persian Empire expanding, and we said there was wars between Persia and Lud, and when Persia conquered Lud, it brought Persia towards the territory of Europe. But we're looking at the west, in this region of the Iberian Peninsula, and now we do have a potential connection with Lydia and the Iberian Peninsula with this word Sepharad, because it's the Hebrew name for the Iberian Peninsula. So it's very interesting, and I want to share another source with you that also speaks about this. This is the Chronicles of Jerahmeel, and it's speaking about Cyrus the Great and all the different territory that he conquered. And we've spoken about Cyrus already in this series, how he upset the balance when he conquered the Medes. Let's read this part. It says, Cyrus, he captured all the land, all the fords of India, as well as those in the south, the whole land of Ethiopia. Now we've spoken about this connection between India and Ethiopia near the beginning of this series, so we're not going to elaborate on that, but it's interesting how we keep coming up with these sources with this connection with India and Ethiopia. But if we think about this, that it's saying that Cyrus conquered the whole land of Ethiopia, or the whole land of Kush, and if we go to a map, this is showing us the the traditional view of what we've been presented with. Now this is the Achaemenid Empire during the reign of Cyrus the Great. So this is all the territory that Cyrus conquered in his time. And Achaemenid, that's the name of the dynasty. So the Persian Empire, or the Achaemenid Empire. Now if we look at this, we can see that according to this picture, Cyrus didn't conquer the land of Ethiopia or Kush. We don't see Ethiopia or Kush in this picture for Cyrus's territory. But if we go to the picture we're working on, we can see how this picture actually could fit and make sense with that source, because we can see how Cyrus could have conquered Ethiopia and Kush. When if we bring back this empire, we can see how it's growing from this territory of Ethiopia or Kush. So this picture actually makes sense with this source. So that's very interesting. It could be important. But notice also that it goes on to say, all the nations dwelling in the lands of the south, Arabia, and in the west as far as Sepharad. So we've already mentioned Sepharad in this video. So this could be referring to Lydia. So it might be saying that Cyrus conquered as far west as Lydia. But where is this land of Sepharad? Because we've already seen we have this potential connection with the Iberian Peninsula for the Sepharad. So it could also be saying that Cyrus conquered it as far west as the Iberian Peninsula, and then that would make sense with this, the way we were expanding this Persian Empire towards Europe, but we have it expanding towards west, to the western part of Europe, towards the Iberian Peninsula. So that's a very interesting source, because our picture looks very different to the to the traditional one. And when you come across a source like this saying that Cyrus conquered the whole land of Ethiopia or the whole land of Kush, and we don't really see that on this traditional view, but it can work with the picture that we're working with. So that's very interesting. And I just want to read this comment from one of our subscribers that left a comment on our previous video. I thought it was a nice way of summing up what I wanted to say. It says, "No endings are needed. All series are based upon the best available information at the time and can be subject to adjustments." So this is a nice way of summing it up, because this work that we're doing, we're just trying to do the best that we can with the information that we have, or the puzzle pieces that we have. And new information can come to light at any time, new puzzle pieces, and then we might have to make some adjustments. So that's why I've left that open here with Lud and the question mark, because when you come across these new things like this word Sepharad and this connection with Lydia and also potentially with the Iberian Peninsula, it just gives us something else to contemplate, to think about for Lud and for Lydia. And it might mean that you have to alter the picture slightly, but not the not the entire work, but just small adjustments. And what we're going to do now is we're going to think about the founding of Rome. So Rome was founded as a republic in 509 BC, after the last Etruscan king that ruled Rome was overthrown. We're going to think about the history that happened before this and start to build towards ancient Greece and Persia attacking the Greeks. We're going to build to this this part of history. So let's just do a recap. And what I've done is I've put here the ending dates for the major empires. So we have the Hittite Empire collapsing around 1190 BC, and their collapse was one of the important reasons that led to Assyria growing and becoming the new superpower. And during the time of the Assyrian Empire, Israel, or the Northern Kingdom, was taken into captivity, and we have this date of 722 BC for the end of the Northern Kingdom. And that happened during the time of the Assyrian Empire. And we have the Assyrian Empire ending around 609 BC, and we spoke about this, that the Medes and the Babylonians formed an alliance to conquer the Assyrian Empire. And there were other kingdoms that helped that alliance. It wasn't just the Medes and the Babylonians. But after Assyria was conquered, then we had these four great powers, the Medes, Lydia, Babylonia, and Egypt. And they carved up the Assyrian Empire. And we spoke about the status quo, or the fact that they wanted to keep stability. They didn't want major conflict. But because Lydia was expanding, it brought them into conflict with the Medes, and there was war between Lydia and Medes. But eventually there was the alliance with the marriage. We spoke about how these two kingdoms kind of united in marriage, the ruling royal families. But we spoke about Cyrus, how Cyrus upset that balance, or that status quo, by conquering the Medes. And then because of that intermarriage, Lydia wanted revenge, so they made war against Persia. And then we spoke about Persia conquering Lud. And because Lydia, well, let's just speak about Lydia, because we want to try and get the idea of what brought this rivalry between the Persians and the Greeks. And if we go to the page on Lydia, we can just read this part here, how it speaks about this this Lydian king, how he attacked the Ionian Greek cities of Miletus, Smyrna, and Colophon. So the Lydians were conquering the Greek cities and expanding their empire. So we try to explain this in a very simple way, that what belonged to Lydia, the Persians would then expect those vassals or those kingdoms to also submit to their rule. So once Persia conquers Lud or Lydia, they're going to expect that the holdings of Lydia is going to submit to their rule. And Lydia had conquered these Greek city-states. So that's now bringing Persia into this realm of Europe and bringing it into the realm of Greece. So that's what we're going to be, building up to speak about ancient Greece, and Persia attacks the Greeks. So I think we're going to leave it there. We just to kind of briefly speak a little bit about this history, and what happens is Persia conquers the Babylonians as well, and during the Babylonian Empire, that's when Judah, the southern kingdom, was conquered. So Jerusalem, the first temple, was destroyed in that period of the Babylonian Empire, and the Babylonian Empire ended around 539 BC. So the Persians conquered the Medes and the Lydian Empire and the Babylonian Empire, and Persia also conquered Egypt. And that's what we were trying to say about Persia becoming greater than all the empires that were before it. And the interesting thing about Egypt is that there was a very powerful prophecy that came against Egypt. If we go to the book of Ezekiel 29, it says, and it's speaking about Egypt, it will be the lowliest of kingdoms and will never again exalt itself above the other nations. I will make it so weak that it will never again rule over the nations. So this prophecy is saying that God is going to make Egypt so weak that it will never rule again or become a major empire. And we can see that's actually starting to become fulfilled in this period, because King Nebuchadnezzar also made Egypt weak through his campaigns, and then eventually Persia is going to conquer Egypt, and then Egypt's never really raises itself up again to become a major empire, because after the Persia, the Macedonians would rule over Egypt, and then the Romans would rule over Egypt. So it's always going to be like continually ruled over by foreign invaders. So that shows that prophecy, being fulfilled. And if, with hindsight, we can see throughout history, Egypt has never fully recovered or become a powerful empire ruling over the nations again. So just a bit of a recap, and then we can see here with these dates when these empires came to an end. And now we're going to build towards ancient Greece and Persia attacking the Greeks, because we're going to see how these Greeks, they start to rebel against the Persian rule. So we'll leave that till the next part. So thank you for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.